Okay, it is 6 p.m. and I am calling to order this regular meeting of the Fairbanks North Star Borough School Board. The school board would like to take this moment to respectfully acknowledge that we are residing on the traditional land of the Dene people. Our mission statement: as a community, we create supportive learning environments where all students thrive. Ms. Carol Hubbard, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the roll?
Miss Charlie,
Here.
Mr. Wade,
Here.
Colonel Campbell,
Here.
Colonel Foster,
Here.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Here.
Mr. Doran,
Here.
Miss Julian,
Here.
Miss Hewitt,
Here.
Mrs. Hull is on Zoom.
Here.
Thank you. Miss Maple
Here.
and Mr. Burgess.
I'm here.
Thank you. The board has a quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the ESP of the month. Dee Dee Cat, cross-categorical special education aide for Anderson Crawford at Elementary School, will be recognized as the ESP of the month for November 2025. Teresa Lesage, Anderson Crawford Elementary School principal, will make the presentation.
This makes me so happy. This is so much fun. So, school board members and Dr. Meinert, thank you so much. It's my privilege tonight to recognize an extraordinary member of our Anderson Crawford Elementary team, Miss Dee Dee Cat. Her cheering squad, all the way out from Eielson and Salsha. So yeah, everybody, it meant a lot to come out here. Dee Dee is one of those rare individuals whose quiet strength and boundless kindness make a daily difference in the lives of our students and staff alike. As a special education cross-categorical aide, she exemplifies flexibility and initiative. When challenges arrive, whether it's rewriting a complex schedule, which she's done more than one time, stepping into a new role at a moment's notice, or anticipating a situation before it even becomes one, which principals really appreciate. She's like, hey, if this happens, this is going to happen. What do you think if I do whatever? And she's wonderful at that. I so appreciate that. Dee Dee's already there, smiling and ready to help. Her compassion and calm spirit bring reassurance to students who need it most, and her positivity lifts every classroom she touches. She doesn't wait to be asked. She just simply sees what needs to be done and she does it, but always with graciousness, patience, and true heart. Dee Dee truly embodies what it means to be an extra special support person, and we are deeply grateful for her dedication, her kindness, and her unwavering commitment to our school community. Please join me in celebrating Miss Dee Dee Cat. Thank you. A shining example of service, teamwork, and care. And now, here is your extra special support person of the month, and you can go down and come right on the outside and shake everybody's hands.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lesage and Ms. Cat. Next on the agenda is the National ESEA Distinguished School Recognition. Representative Will Stapp will be presenting Tickasick Brown Elementary School with a citation as one of the National ESEA Distinguished Schools. Principal Kathy Push, along with members of her school team, will receive the citation for the school.
Didn't realize the mic wasn't fixed in place there. It's an honor and privilege of mine to come here before our wonderful school district and board.
A renowned Inupiaq educator, poet, and writer, her name Tickasick.
I'll turn your attention to the screen.
Of approximately 350 students. Located between two military bases, about 30% of our students are military connected, with a rich diversity that includes 21% representing 2 or more races, 13% representing Alaska Natives, and 9% Hispanic. Becoming a Title I school 2 years ago allowed us to implement critical initiatives like Walk to Read, a school-wide intervention focused on improving literacy. Our dedicated teachers, tutors, and other instructional staff use this time to provide targeted instruction and support, ensuring that every student has the opportunity to succeed. Our commitment to data-driven instruction has been instrumental in our success. Regular data meetings and analysis allow us to identify student needs and refine our teaching strategies to meet them. We believe in strong partnerships with our families. By fostering open communication and offering opportunities for collaboration, we ensure that parents and caregivers are actively involved in their child's education and can support learning at home. We celebrate our diverse community by incorporating cultural activities and traditions into our curriculum, like Native Youth Olympics. By honoring our heritage, we foster a sense of belonging and pride among our students. Our school is more than just academics. With partners like Playworks, we create a safe and fun environment where students can build social and emotional skills while staying physically active. At Tickasick Brown, we're proud of our accomplishments and excited about our future. Together, we're building a strong foundation for our students' success.
Well, it's really exciting that I get to be here today because we, our school district and members of the board, and of course the public and the wonderful teachers and administrators, especially at the elementary school Tickasick Brown, it's a privilege of mine with the rest of the Fairbanks City delegation, Representative Dybert and Senator Kawasaki, to be able to present Tickasick Brown and the teachers and the administrators there with our recognition from the legislature of all the amazing work that you have done for the students there at the school. So I have brought you a citation from the 34th Alaska Legislature that honors Tickasick Brown, this outstanding ESEA Achievement of the Distinguished School Award. And I'll definitely brag all about it because Tickasick Brown happens to be in my house district. And also, It opened the year I was born, so I know it's 38 years old. And I can't say enough about how great it is to read and learn about your Walk to Read program and how successful that's been. And I just want to have everyone take this time just to think about how great a recognition this is. And you guys deserve it. You work hard every day. And thank you for everything that you do.
So I get a second to brag, and I'm super excited. As a principal, I'm extremely proud of our staff, our students, our families, parents, and the district support that we've had over the last 3 years. We've seen substantial gains in student achievement. Our kindergarten through third grade student proficiency on our reading assessment has increased by 24%. Our AK STAR assessment for our third through fifth graders, reading proficiency has increased by more than 6%, math proficiency by 7.5%, and science proficiency, this is my favorite, 16.1%. Those are huge numbers. We are thrilled and honored. Thank you all very much. Oh, I'm supposed to shake everybody's hand.
Follow the leader. That's why I learned how to do that.
All right, congratulations once again to Tickasick Brown. Next on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Consent items marked with an asterisk are considered routine items not requiring public discussion by the school board. Unless removed from the consent agenda, asterisk items will be automatically approved when the agenda is adopted. Questions concerning these items should be directed to the administration before the meeting. If the superintendent or a member of the public wishes to have an item removed from the consent agenda, the request must be made to a board member anytime prior to the start of the meeting. The board member has the discretion to accept or deny the request. Only a board member may remove an item from the consent agenda. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it shall be considered separately as the last item of new business. Asterisk items will then be adopted by one single motion. May I have a motion, please?
Move to adopt the agenda with consent items.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote?
Colonel Foster,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. The agenda is adopted. Next on the agenda is public comments on reports and non-agenda items. During this section of the agenda, the school board welcomes public comments on non-agenda topics. This is an opportunity for community members to be heard. The board will note the topics, though no official actions will be taken. Topics may be referred to administration for further research and future potential action. Board members will not respond to comments or questions made by the public. Concerned citizens should first discuss matters with the superintendent or designee. After the superintendent or designee has heard the concerns, they may be brought to the board. Individual students and district personnel may not be discussed in public testimony. Please contact the district office to route concerns about individual students or district personnel through the appropriate channels. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak on agenda items at the time the item is introduced for action or discussion. Once the agenda is published, testifiers should email or call the school board office by 4:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting to sign up for public testimony. Students who have signed up in advance or are in the room and wishing to testify will be called upon first, followed by members of the public who have signed up in advance in the order in which they have signed up. If time remains, anyone else in person will be invited to testify until the 1-hour time limit has been reached. A sign-up sheet will be available in the boardroom before the start of each meeting for those who have not already signed up in advance. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and should provide their first name, spell their last name, and state their area of residence. And as a reminder, please adhere to the board standards on decorum. Keep it civil, please, people. First on the list of folks who have signed up in advance is Ms. Gail McBride.
Is this on? Is it on?
There should be a green light if it's on.
No, I don't. Can you tell? The green light is not.
We can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Gail McBride, McBride. I live in Fairbanks. I think it's a good time to clarify the mission of Moms for Liberty that will give proper context to my comments before this board. We are a parental rights advocacy organization founded by 2 moms who were school board members in 2021. As board members during COVID, they became aware of the need for course correction at all levels. The Supreme Court case Pierce in 1925 stated, quote, "The child is not a mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right, coupled with the high duty, to recognize and prepare him for additional obligations," end quote. Natural law and this Supreme Court case provides for parents to direct the education of their children. This is always the context of my work, for change where parents see the need. There's much agreement for us to work together. Parents want their children educated in basic academics. They do not want John Dewey's vision of school as social engineering. Parents expect schools to be free of political and social indoctrination. Parents expect at school all focus will be to increase the measurable education of their children. Parents tell me they feel helpless to make changes, that the school district will do as they please and not listen to parents. There is evidence over many years of this. Parents must have a voice. They have the best interest of their child more than anyone. We will address the same issues being addressed across the country: ideology, pornography in libraries, and sexualizing children. We will advocate for traditional American ideals of liberty, which have built the greatest and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. We will advocate for the basic necessity of the strong family unit, and will reject everything decaying that most sacred institution. My comments here are not to win arguments over differing worldviews, but to bring us back to first principles. The parents' worldview trumps the government's agendas. Our efforts here are to bring attention to, and with your help, make changes to policies that do not support parental values. I look forward to progress for students and parents this year.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. McBride. Next on the list, we have Rita Trometer.
Rita Trometer, Trometter, North Pole. Evening School Board members. Welcome new members, Audra and Naomi. I hope this board will make a positive choices for our community. Last week, this board started out on a poor decision. You chose Bobby Burgess as a president. Most members remember his limelight on social media last year. If members have a short memory or the new community members are listening, my testimony on September 3rd, 2024 addressed him posed bare butt to the camera wearing nothing more than an apron to cover his manhood. Anyone else in the world of
Ms.
elected
Trometer, please keep
officials
it
would
civil.
have been removed from the elected position. Bobby Bare Butt Burgess was allowed to remain on this school board,
You're
and
really
now
bumming
he
me
has
out.
been risen to the level of president. Obviously, this board, the superintendents, school workers, teachers unions, and teachers themselves have not opposed to his one apron away from pornographic pose. This board keeps making lame reasons why the attendance is failing throughout the district. Keep in mind, Mr. Burgess was the one who wanted to implement sexual curriculum with gay foreplay videos as part of the proposed mandatory health class. His lead is from a group called Future of Sex Education. This board is not here for your student. They are here to satisfy the unions that make decisions. Yes, they make it look good with events, awards, and activities. As a parent who has raised 2 children in the district over the past 30 plus years, the lack of educational instruction continues to fail our students. I personally recommend every parent, guardian to evaluate the education of your student. As a parent, please review the curriculum. Question the teacher on anything you believe is poor instruction. Don't be afraid to discuss issues with the principal. Who are the aides throughout the school where your student is attending? Know who is teaching your student. Where did they grow up? Where did they get their teaching degree? Why did they decide to come to Alaska? Ask them what their extracurricular interests are. How did they get their particular job? If you have concerns, if you have major concerns, ask the personnel office if a background check was conducted. If a parent of a student in the school, you have the right to know. Currently, there are persons in the classroom that I would not want my youth exposed to daily. If school district allows a bare butt male to be president, you can only imagine what they're leaving in the classroom to expose to your student. Remember, even if you do not have a child in the school district, your tax dollars through property ownership and rents is what supports the school district and makes decisions. Ask yourself, do you want somebody who's posing almost in the nude on social media leading the school board and making decisions for the children? I would homeschool my children again if I had students in the district today. Once again, I am asking Mr. Burgess to resign. Thank you for your time.
All right. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to testify? Ms. Cotter, please step forward.
Hi, Adia Cotter, Cotter, and I live in the McGrath area. I just want to say a few things about something that's on everyone's mind lately, and that's food. I want to give a big thanks to Nutrition Services for the messaging that they've been putting out the last week. They sent out a great message on Parent School about what a school lunch consists of. And I appreciated that because although I've been in many, many lunchrooms at lunchtime and I've seen and kind of smelled the food, I have not myself tasted or looked into it. And so their message was very helpful in determining how much food a kid actually gets at lunch. If you ask a kid about lunch, you don't get a lot of information. If you ask a kid how lunch is, you can ask 5 different kids and you'll get 5 different answers. So they're not a reliable data point. So I just want to thank them for keeping us informed about something very, very important. They also sent out a message a couple days ago, maybe a day ago, about the government shutdown and making sure that people know that their food is still secure, even though the government is shut down. There are many people that are involved in getting that food from wherever it comes from to the lunchrooms in our school district. It seems to be very complicated from what I've looked at the USDA website. And so thank you to all those people as well, because it's an important part of the school day. It's an important part of our culture, our school culture. And it is probably something that the general public is not aware, that it takes many, many different people from many, many different departments and involves a long process. I do want to add two things. I did notice on this Nutrition Services website that there was lots of information about students with food allergies and how to be accommodated, which is great. I didn't see anything about accommodations for non-medical food restrictions, maybe religious or preferences or else other things that might affect your ability to get food. And so if there are provisions for that, it would be nice to see that on the website so that there's more information for people to kind of refer to. And then the other thing is I saw a lot of meat on the menu. I did look up all the nutrition facts that Nutrition Services also provides on their website. It's great information. Lots of meat options. There's lots of vegetable options and fruit options. But if you're a kid who doesn't like meat, or you're a vegetarian, or you have certain food preferences for another reason, you might find that menu a little bit limiting. So in your next revision of school lunches, please consider that fact. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Cotter. Are there any other members of the audience wishing to testify tonight? Mr. Decker.
Hello, my name is Jared Decker, Decker. I live off Scenic Loop in Fairbanks, Alaska. Wasn't prepared to speak tonight, but just wanted sitting in the audience listening. And I am a parent of two high schoolers who attend West Valley High School. And my wife and I just finished up parent-teacher conferences there last week. And I just want to congratulate West Valley High School, the staff, the administration, the students there. What a great experience my two kids are having. They experience an education that has rigorous curriculum, vibrant extracurricular activities. There's a great social scene for them, both my senior and my freshman child. I think they are learning a lot about liberty, freedom of speech. They are free from ideological indoctrination. I found the staff to be extremely responsive when we brought concerns to them, and they were very forthright in bringing concerns to us and celebrating successes. So I just want to thank that big public school down there off Geist Road.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Decker. Are there any other members of the audience wishing to speak today? Seeing none, we will close public hearing. That takes us to our next agenda item, the Borough Assembly Report. Liz Reeves, Borough Assembly member, will provide the Assembly report via Zoom. Ms. Reeves. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm in Nome, so I'm not going to turn my video on because the bandwidth isn't super great. But the Assembly hasn't done a lot recently that I think the school district and the board would be interested in. But there were two things that I did want to highlight. Back in September, we did pass our legislative priorities list. And on there, we had that the state of Alaska should alter the funding formula to incentivize economic development and continue to increase the base student allocation. It went more in depth, but that's just the broad overview. And the last time I presented this, a board member asked me to give an explanation of the BSA, and I'm going to respectfully request that you guys don't make me do that tonight because I'm not prepared. Let's see, I think that that's on the legislative priorities list. That's the main thing that would affect the district. Let's hope that that goes through. And then we have started or progressed in our capital improvement projects list. It's like we're in a weird phase now where we've approved everything that was nominated, or not everything, that we've approved a list, a resolution, and it's gone back to the administration for staff to score and scope it. That might not be, at least score it, and maybe like try and finesse a rough estimate of the cost of the capital improvement projects. On that list, as I'm sure you guys are aware, at least the school board, there were a ton of school district, they're for borough buildings, but for school projects. I want to say that there was like 40 on the list. I'm not going to try and read them all, but the first, I'll go through the first, let's see what's on this page, the first six. The first six on here were the Anderson Crawford Elementary roof replacement, Arctic Light Elementary HVAC control system upgrade, Arctic Light Elementary school roof replacement, Arctic Light primary playground replacement, Effie Cochran replaced fire alarm system, and then Effie Cochran roof replacement. And again, there was like 40, so I'm not going to read the whole. It's like 8 pages long. So though, we're the next step in the KIP process is it will get scoped and finessed a little bit, and then it'll come back before the assembly at a regular assembly meeting for public hearing before we adopt the whole list again. So we're kind of in a middle process of it. We just did that at our last regular assembly meeting. And I think that's all I got for you. If there's any questions, I will sure attempt to answer them, unless it's to describe what the BSA is.
Questions from board members? Not seeing any questions for you, Ms. Reeves. You got off easy tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you. At this point, I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess, please. So, board members, please be back at 6:36. All right, it is 6:36, so I will call us back to order. Our next agenda item is advisory member reports and comments. Let's start with Mr. Wade.
Good evening. I have little to report today. I'm so happy to announce that we are 1/4 complete with the year, which also means that I am 1/4 of the way complete through my term, which is unfortunate for me. Kind of bittersweet with my senior year. Recently, at the end of October, around 30 students from interior Alaska, including Fairbanks, North Pole, and Delta, had the ability to represent their schools and communities at a state leadership conference at the end of October. Students were involved in civic activity and used parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order to productively discuss and vote on resolutions concerning topics around their state and communities. Additionally, I'm still working to bring relevant and relative board discussion into classrooms and houses around the borough through whatever means necessary. Students across the district are working to organize local food drives. I'd like to take a moment to thank parents, teachers, students, and faculty to ensure Fairbanks and Western Alaskan families can all have a meal this holiday season. Additionally, students are excited for upcoming legislative session, where we will begin advocating for legislation which benefits the youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Ms. Charlie.
Thank you. I don't have too much to report on. I do want to apologize for missing the last board meeting. I wasn't in a time zone where I was able to call in. And I also do want to congratulate you on being the president, Bobby. I'm really excited for you in this coming year. So thank you. Bessie.
Thank you, Ms. Charlie. Anything from Colonel Foster?
Yes, from Eielson. Good evening, everybody. Said not too much to report. We are still going through the government shutdown, and we're starting to see a little bit of some cracks across the formations with respect to our civilians, mainly our civilians, with their not being paid and still having to come in for some of our exempted employees. So there's a little bit of turbulence, to put it lightly, but we are powering through that, offering up assistance where we can. But there is that second and third order effect where it will resonate down into the family, and you may see that inside the schools that those children go to. So, but we're focused on getting through this. So just wanted to share that a little bit. As from an operational standpoint, we are flying. If you don't hear it, we are doing night flights. So F-35s, F-16s flying. But what makes it more challenging this week compared to the previous weeks is we've had snow. So now we're into snow clearing operations, so we can make sure that we can launch those jets and recover those jets safely. So we are in 24/7 operations, making sure the runway is clear and able to launch and recover aircraft. That, and we have started our Arctic schools for both pilot training as well as our airmen, so they can go out there and get familiar with Arctic survival. So those are just a few things I just wanted to share with the collective. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Foster. Colonel Campbell?
Thank you for the time. And up front, I do want to say thank you to the district for the support to our military-connected families, as well as our government employees, the civilian side. Tim, Colonel Foster, same atmospherics that he laid out there. We're continuing to train. We're trying to set conditions with the winter coming on for our large-scale exercise, JPMRC, in February. And so you'll see a lot of ramp up of some initial cold weather training, and then getting out in the field, working that trade craft, and then hitting that large-scale exercise. And as we get closer, I'll give more updates on that as far as when we'll be on the roads and can expect our soldiers out, so that you understand where our school-age kids are seeing mom and dad, one parent in the family, potentially the other one out in the field for a month. So I'll make sure you have that update. But as Colonel Foster laid out there, the atmospherics are the same with our civilian employees who aren't getting paid. A lot of friction there. We're working through it and supporting them. But I do appreciate the school district's opportunity to relook lunchtime and food, potential for food, and parents coming up back to potentially relook the ability to get school lunch for free and some of that too. Like I said, I deeply appreciate what the school district does for our military-connected students. So thank you for time.
Thank you, Colonel Campbell. Next on the agenda is board committee reports. Do we have any reports from committee chairs? Ms. Julian.
Thank you, President Burgess. I will report on the Budget Committee. We met on the 30th of October, and we are working towards the memo from the committee that will be presented to this board in early December. And that memo from the Budget Committee really outlines two different things. First, reductions. So where, if we have to reduce the budget or if we choose to reduce the budget in any way, where will those reductions potentially happen? And then additions. So if we're going to make any investments, where should we put those investments? And pardon me. There's a moving target that we're looking at right now, which is what are we looking at a deficit? And the answer is probably yes. We are going to get a little bit more honed in on that number as certain things kind of outlined for the district. Enrollment being the biggest one. Pardon me. We are down again in enrollment this year. This is a trend that we've seen really since before the pandemic, as our borough demographics are changing and people are leaving. Actually, there's quite a few from that enrollment decline that we're seeing from going out of state, moving out of state, moving out of the borough. But that enrollment decline is going to impact our overall target. And right now we're looking at between a $0 deficit and a $5 million deficit. And so if that deficit, if we end up kind of seeing it kind of land more towards the $5 million range of a deficit, we will as a district have to consider, where do we come up with that? How do we bridge that gap? And the Budget Committee is going to take a first stab at that and make a recommendation in that regard in early December. And so, and I wanted to thank Mr. Doran, my co-board member, committee chairperson, who has served on the Budget Committee for several years and really helped me understand the ropes. And I look forward to welcoming Ms. Carol Hubbard on the committee starting at our next meeting on November 20th.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. Any other reports? Ms. Maple.
I realize it's not actually a committee report, but I just wanted to acknowledge that I no longer get to run the policy committee, which is my favorite thing I've gotten to do on this board. And just wanted to publicly thank Diana Dillard for all of her work supporting me and leading that committee over the past several years. It's been truly a great pleasure. So that's all.
Mr. Dorn.
Thank you. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. I want to start by thanking you, Mr. Burgess, for doing the committee assignments so quickly. That's one of the first duties as a president, and you filled that very well. And as I was thinking about this, and when Mr. Wade was talking, it reminded me the importance of opportunities for input from our community. And when we talk about family engagement, it also involves students. And I have had the pleasure of, I believe, serving on every committee over the years. The student reps are really, really important. And as Ms. Dillian was talking, one of the things that was very noticed, we commented on it, the student rep to the Budget Committee brought a very detailed response with specific input from Regional Student Council. And I think it underscores how important that voice is at our table. And not only including those who are on any individual committee representing students, but going back and trying to get a broader perspective, as you do in your reports here. I also, as I transition from Budget Committee to Curriculum Committee, I really look forward to that. It was the first committee I served on when I was elected years ago. And I'm glad to be back on it because it also really emphasizes the opportunity for parent, family, community input when drafts of curriculums go out for review, when materials are made available as they're narrowed down for final consideration for community members to come and look at them. It's one of those highlights that show that engagement, and on all our committees we have parent and community representation. So I think it's important to just note the many different, and those are only a few examples, but there are many different opportunities for those, as well as public testimony. So we really appreciate those who come and give public testimony to us. So just thought I'd highlight that's one of the committee enjoyments.
Thank you, Mr. Doran. Any further committee reports? Okay, seeing none, that brings us to my first president's report. So as has been noted, committee committees have been assigned, committee chairs have been assigned. I would encourage committee members who are leaving their committees to have a transition meeting with the new chairs, if possible. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be, anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, I imagine. But just to help with a smooth transition and help the incoming chair to understand what's been happening in the committee and how things are run. Each of our committees is a little bit different, so it's good to get kind of a good overview at the beginning. Also, please plan to report out on your committee meetings following each one. Or even if you're unable to meet due to lack of quorum, it's good for the rest of the board to hear that because we can be involved in solutions in that instance. If there are any agenda items that come out of your committees that you want to bring to the whole board, please coordinate with me or Dr. Meinert. And if you have any questions about chairing committees, feel free to ask me, Dr. Meinert, the administrators that are assigned to your committees, or any board member who has served on committees before. And with that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the goals I have for this next year. Of course, we have a new strategic plan, and I'm looking forward to working closely with administration and board members on implementation of that and with the community. As many know, there are some work groups that are already out there starting their work that involve many community members. I also want to continue the ongoing policy review and moving our policies to a new platform consistent with AASB model policy numbers. And as we do that, I'd encourage folks to look at the AASB Trauma Engaged Schools guidance, particularly as we go into the next Article 5, because I think it's very useful to keep in mind as we work on policies. And also, just as kind of a heads up, this isn't going to come soon, but I would like the board to revisit specific bylaws. We have in recent years worked on our bylaws, Article 9, but there are a couple that I think are worth bringing up again periodically. And so later, that's probably won't come up till spring, but I just wanted to give everyone a heads up to be thinking about that as we're working through this year. Specific bylaws that I'm looking to bring up include our bylaws on committees and on board development and onboarding. Another goal I have is to continue to strengthen our relationship with the Borough Assembly. I plan to reach out to their new presiding officer, who will be selected on November 13th, to discuss more opportunities for collaboration, discussion, and teamwork, working together on advocacy and setting priorities together. And I would encourage members to review the assembly agendas and note when there are education-related items on their agenda, particularly if you are going to be the representative at the board meeting, or sorry, at the assembly meeting. Because we do have the ability to debate on items that are related to specifically to education in the school district. If you have any questions about that, please reach out to me or Dr. Meinert. Another goal is to engage in more active outreach. I plan on writing community perspectives for the Newsminer and hopefully discuss getting to know their staff better and their reporters. And I would encourage board members to consider writing letters to the editor or community perspectives as well. The purpose being to get information out. So I would encourage you to do that, to keep it factual and informational. If you do include your opinion, please be clear that you are not representing the board and that you are speaking in your individual capacity. And if you have ideas for information and that we can get out there, please feel free to let me know. I'm open to co-writing with members. Members can co-write with me or Dr. Meinert if he's willing. And another part of outreach is getting out to schools. I've been hearing a lot of staff saying that they really appreciate it when board members are able to visit schools. It can be formal or informal visits. We do have, there's kind of a protocol to let the superintendent and building administrators know ahead of time before you visit schools. But we are welcome to visit schools, and I would encourage you to try to do so. I know that it's challenging. I have a 40-hour work week myself, but I'd encourage you to try and be creative in how you go about visiting schools. Find out what works for you. You can go during the school day. You can go visit during recess, during dismissal, see what an elementary school dismissal looks like. And there might be volunteer opportunities. For example, I have for many years been working with the Guys Read program, and so I've used that as an opportunity to get into schools, something I'm doing anyway. And then I'll let administrators know that I'll be there if they or their staff would like to give me a tour or have a discussion or highlight anything that's going on in their school. I recently was able to visit Wood River during an FNA Elders event in Mr. Hensel's room, and that was a whole lot of fun. It was great to see kids and elders getting together, working on crafts after sharing a meal. And again, I understand how challenging it can be to get out to school when we all have so much going on in our lives, but it is very meaningful to the staff, and I've heard that they really would appreciate seeing us more often. And I'd also encourage other opportunities for meaningful dialogue and feedback. Find ways to get out there and hear from your community in a way that works for you. And also, if you have any ideas for engaging in more active outreach, meaningful conversations, dialogue, please feel free to bring them forward to me or to Dr. Meinert. Your ideas are welcome. Another goal, as always, is advocating to our legislature. There are many ways to do this. There is the AASB annual fly-in in February. I believe that is on our board calendar already, members, so you can take a look at your board calendar and save the dates. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's February 10th, 7th to 10th, February 7th to 10th this year. So I don't know that the whole board needs to go there all at once. We can travel to Juneau at other times to advocate. So find a time that might work for you. Consider getting down to Juneau to talk to our legislators. And of course, we can talk to legislators directly. We can go to the Legislative Information Office, email them, call them up. And we'll begin our work on legislative priorities on November 17th. We have the first legislative committee scheduled at that time. and so I would, hopefully we can all make it to that. And the chair of the legislative committee, or well, our clerk and Dr. Meinert and I are working on those draft priorities already. Another goal I have is to continue board development. We have the AASB annual conference next week, and most of us are able to attend. And I'd encourage members to report out on what they learn at that training. We'll all be in different training sessions, so please plan on reporting out at the following board meeting on what it is that you want to highlight from that conference. Other training opportunities, there's the AASB new board member series. If you haven't seen that, get in touch with me. I can make sure that, especially for our brand new members, that you understand how to access those. And we'll work on planning a board retreat sometime early next year after January 1st. One other thing that I would like members to do as we start a new board, essentially, is to review our board norms. You all have them posted in front of you on the dais. And to state your intent to affirm the board norms and abide by them. Be happy to hear that information today or anytime. And lastly, I've decided to up my tie game. So as board president, you see today I'm wearing a quirky tie with eagles on it, bald eagles, very patriotic. And so this is your notice, Mr. Doran, Mr. DeGraw, Mr. Beam, Dr. Meinert. It is a competition, and you are all winning. And with that, I'll conclude my board report, or my president's report. Mr. Doran.
I'd like to affirm our board norms and maybe suggest, as people want to do that, would you want to just go read them all out so it's that reminder for those who are continuing, but also for our new members as they come on and they consider their affirmation? But I will affirm them.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Doran. I'll go ahead and read those now. Our board norms include to assume positive intent of each board member, use respectful language and avoid disparaging remarks about board members, district staff, or community members, understand the role of the board as a governance body, not a management team, address concerns privately with individuals outside of meetings, and maintain focus and engagement during meetings, avoiding distractions. Those were affirmed December 3rd of 2024 by the board as a whole at that time. And I'd love to hear the reaffirmation at any time. Thank you. Ms. Julian.
Well, I think that I would like to take the moment to also affirm the board norms. So thank you for bringing those forward and for reading them.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. Any other questions or affirmations? Ms. Maple.
I mean, I feel like this is a thing now, that I also affirm all of our board norms.
Thank you, Ms. Maple. Ms. Carol Hubbard.
I would like to state that I will that I affirm the board norms and I will be intentional about following each one of them. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Ms. Carol Hubbard. Ms. Hewitt.
I mean, if everybody's doing it, no, I appreciate the board norms. It really sets the right tone for our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Hull.
Yes, my hand is raised. I would like to state that I affirm the board norms.
Thank you. Are there any other questions about my president's report? All right, seeing none, thank you, board. Getting back to the agenda, the next item on our agenda, I believe, should be the superintendent's report. Dr. Meinert.
All right. Thank you, President Burgess. As you were talking,
about visiting schools. Just wanted to highlight one of the invitations I received recently, and a shout out to Mrs. Talberg for allowing me to read to her kindergarten classroom. I love being in schools, and while I would not be qualified to teach kindergartners, I absolutely love coming to visit and helping with snack time and those types of things. And so definitely a highlight there. Myself and my administrative team love being in school. So if there's things that you would like us to see, or if there's things that you would specifically like support on, please reach out to my office, as we'd love to be there to support you in the work that you do. A shout out to the families that joined us at Hunter Elementary School last weekend for our math and reading rally for our K-3 families. We had a good turnout, not quite as strong as last year, but a great turnout with 14 different schools represented and a number of kids that had childcare for them in the gym so that their parents could go to sessions to learn more about supporting their students in math and reading at home. A huge thank you to our educators that helped support that event, and then Teaching and Learning for organizing it. We're already starting to think about next year and the ways that we can invite parents into our next reading and math rally. And if you have feedback on the event, or if there's other things that you would like assistance with that the school district can provide, reach out, and we'd love to help you with that. We've been working behind the scenes to select members for our strategic planning pillar teams for access and choice. People that as I shared last time, we had over 149 members. Our community members reach out for interest in serving on those teams. We've whittled those lists down, and people that expressed interest will know by the end of this week or early next week whether or not they're on the teams. If you are on the team, we'll provide you with additional information in terms of upcoming meeting dates and what some focus areas will be. If you're not selected this go around, I would encourage you to continue to stay engaged with the district. As I've shared in the past, there's a number of ways to serve and share your voice. Definitely through board committees. There's local PTAs and PTOs at our individual schools. And then there's lots of other committees that we need people to serve on and share your expertise with us. And so I would encourage you to stay engaged with us, even if you're not selected this go around. Would also like to thank the Regional Student Council. I know they're working on selecting a couple students and encouraging them to serve on these pillar advisory teams so that we have some student voice. As Mr. Doran mentioned, it's incredibly impactful when we have students at the table letting them know how our education is impacting them and what ways we can better serve them. So thank you for the Regional Student Council for working with us on that. A huge thank you to Marathon Petroleum and Operation Warm for their generous donation of winter coats at North Pole Elementary School. Last week, they provided every student with a warm winter coat. And so that was a donation of over $20,000 worth of winter coats. Great event. It was fun. It was on the day before Halloween. So all of our kids were dressed in their costumes, and then they got a warm winter coat on top of it. And so just a great, generous donation and shows a great community partner that makes our schools great. So thank you to Marathon Petroleum and Operation Warm for that generous donation. A huge thank you to UAF Athletics and Alaska 529. They will be hosting 1,000 3rd through 5th grade students from across our district at a volleyball game this Thursday up on campus. And it is a wild event if you have not seen it. It's one of the loudest events of the year. The volleyball players absolutely love it. It's the loudest game with the most energy that they get to play in on a yearly basis, and a great learning experience for our students. Not only do they get to see collegiate athletes in action in their backyard, but they also get to see a world-class university right here in Fairbanks, which many of our students haven't been exposed to that. And so a huge thank you for Alaska 529 for financing that for our students, and then UAF for organizing it. And then lastly, November is November is Native Heritage Month, and our district is committed to honoring Indigenous culture throughout our schools and community. And I want to state that this work is possible through the dedication of our staff, the Alaska Native Education Program, the Alaska Room, and our strong partnerships with the Fairbanks Native Association and the Danakanaga Elders. And we continue to build meaningful collaboration with our Alaska Native communities through the leadership of our tribal representative on the school board. So thank you for being here. I didn't get to thank you last time. I shared some great graduation data and some improvements of our Alaska Native education students. And I think that's directly related to the work that you and your staff members do in our schools every day. Also want to thank the leadership of our A&E PAC, our student support services team, and the connections with all of our educators in our schools on a daily basis. Highlights this month for Alaska Native Heritage Month include an elementary Native Youth Olympics at Tanana Middle School on November 14th and 15th. It's a huge event. Our elementary schools throughout the district have localized competition of Native Youth Olympics at their elementary schools, and the winners of those competitions will be represented at Tanana Middle School with over 200 students competing in that. And so if you're free on the 14th and 15th, please come out and cheer on our elementary students. We'll also have a Rock Your Mocks Week, Wear It Wednesdays, and all kinds of different celebrations this month. And then wanted to remind the community and the board that Policy 985.4 ensures graduating Alaska Native students may wear traditional regalia at commencement, reflecting their values or our values of inclusion and respect. And we're proud to see the continued growth in Alaska Native students and their graduation rates as a result of these collective efforts. So that concludes my report for this evening, and happy to answer any questions for the board.
Mr. Dorn.
Sorry, I don't want to disappoint. Just going back to the strategic planning committees, I want to thank the administration for getting those going and such. But I want to just make a comment. It's a 5-year plan.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, not everybody, we can see everybody at every table every time, but to spread the wealth of involvement and opportunities as we go forward, maybe things coming out of these initial pillar committees, and then as we further through and look over the course of 5 years to accomplish what we would like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. This is just one pillar that we're focusing on this year in terms of having a committee structure. So there'll be a number of different ways that the community can interact with the strategic plan going forward and additional committees for folks to serve on. So thank you, Mr. Doran, for calling that out.
Okay. And if I could just comment too, I appreciate, I've mentioned this before, but how you've made it present. But also we talked, in one of your goals, Mr. Burgess was talking about the relationship with the news media, and I've seen it referenced in editorials as well as letters to the editor and in other places, but just comments around the community. So I think it's something that is gaining feet, I should say.
Ms. Julian.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, can you talk a little bit about, so earlier today we had a presentation, Tickasik Brown received an ESEA Distinguished School Award. Can you talk a little bit more about what kind of set them apart and what that award was about and really the qualifications for it? I was really impressed to hear the 6% increase in reading, the 7.5% increase in math, and then the 16% increase in science from the AK STAR results. But was curious if those feed into the ESEA and if you can talk a little bit about that.
Dr. Meyer?
Absolutely. And I think you just covered most of it. It was those incredible growth numbers, specifically in reading that that school achieved and outperformed many schools within the state, and definitely outperformed what they were expected to. And so that's through the tremendous efforts of their staff and the interventions that they're able to put in place for their students. For the board, if you haven't seen Teachers at Tickasik Brown in action for their U-Fly lessons and their Walk to Read. They're incredible. And so they're doing amazing work with our students out there and really showing some great growth in reading proficiency and then other subject areas as well.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is what we've actually got 3 charter school contract amendment requests. They're all very similar. First one is Boreal Sun, and I would ask board members that to keep discussion to a minimum here. If you do have questions about these, feel free to ask Dr. Meinert. So the first up is Boreal Sun Charter School Contract Amendment. The request is to amend Article 1, Section 3, Admission Policy and Procedures, Selection Process, page 11 of its charter school contract with the district to remove the sentence, classes are balanced by gender with no gender exceeding 60% over the other. And I would take a motion.
I move to approve the request from Boreal Sun Charter School to amend Article 1, Section 3, Admission Policy and Procedures, Selection Process, page 11 of its charter school contract with the district, to remove the sentence, classes are balanced by gender with no gender exceeding 60% over the other.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Carol Hubbard, seconded by Mr. Doran. Any questions, board? Dr. Meinert, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, I'd love to just give a brief overview, and this will carry all 3 action items tonight. As we were reviewing past contracts and some of our local charters, these 3 charter schools all had language that balanced genders throughout the admissions process. And as we looked at that and worked with legal counsel suggested the change because it does not meet state statute and isn't something that should be within charter admissions processes. It really should be whoever's next up on the list regardless of gender should be selected. And so a pretty simple and basic change for the board, but one that legal counsel is definitely suggesting that the board takes action on.
Thank you, Dr. Meinert. Any questions from the board? I'm going to take a brief at ease to ask a question. And we're back. Is there any? I'd like to open open public hearing on this. Is there anyone here that is wishing to testify on this item? Seeing none, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote? And a reminder to the board, a yes vote will approve the request to amend the contract for Boreal Sun Charter School. A no vote will vote that down.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Foster,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay. Next up is a very similar item for Chinook Montessori Charter School to amend Article 1, Section 3, Admission Policy and Procedures Selection Process, page 8 of its charter school contract with the district to remove the words and gender and the entire section on gender balance. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the request from Chinook Montessori Charter School to amend Article 1, Section 3, Admission Policy and Procedures, Selection Process, page 8 of its charter school contract with the district, to remove the words "and gender" and the entire section on gender balance.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Julian, seconded by Ms. Carol Hubbard. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Seeing none. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote?
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Foster,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay, next is the Watershed Charter School Contract Amendment Request to amend Section 1, Establishment of the Charter at the Local Level, changes to the original charter lottery process, page 6 and Appendix G, equal and bias-free access for eligible students, selection process, page 126 of its charter school contract with the district, to remove all verbiage as they no longer balance its classes by gender. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the request from Watershed Charter School to amend Section 1, Establishment of the Charter at the Local Level, changes to the original charter lottery processes, page 6 and Appendix G, equal and bias-free access for eligible students, selection process, page 126 of its charter, school contract with the district, to remove the all verbiage as they no longer balance its classes by gender.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Carol Hubbard, seconded by Mr. Doran. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Seeing none. Any questions from the board? Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote?
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Foster,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the next item, information and reports. We have let me just check in with the board. Everyone doing okay? Anyone need a short break? All right, we're looking good. All right, great. We will have a report on the school climate survey platform and ASB collaboration. Brianna Gray, Executive Director of Student Support Services, will introduce the district's new school climate survey platform, a vital tool in understanding and improving our school environment. We'll explore the platform's features, highlight key areas of focus for data collection, and discuss collaborative efforts with the Association of Alaska School Boards, AASB, to leverage this resource effectively.
All right.
Ms. Gray.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Brianna Gray. I'm the Executive Director of Student Support Services, and welcome to our new members who are here and on Zoom. School climate really is impacted by every single one of us, so I thank you for your time and your dedication and your leadership. All right, so last year we moved to the Association of Alaska School Boards School Climate and Connectedness Survey, and many other districts throughout the state also use this survey. Through this partnership, we work directly with their coordinator, where they work with us to make sure that they are helping us with data cleanup, analyzing the data, and also helping us create different documents. And so they also work with the Family Engagement Center and an education and research organization to help us with that process. All right, so why do we have a school climate survey? School climate surveys help us learn how students, staff, and families feel about their school. So this is a perception survey that is taken online. It is anonymous, and so what that means is there are no names attached to any of the surveys, so staff, student, and families can respond to the survey with honesty. AASB reviews all of the results for us to make sure that the data is fair and accurate. And we'll look at the platform here in a moment, but you'll look at some numbers, and a higher score means a more positive perception of school climate. And when we look at each result, we can look at it from a school level, a district-wide level, or from a participating districts level, which is really cool. So let me get to the platform. So this platform or dashboard is not the same one that we use internally for the district. This one is through Panorama. This is the organization or the platform that is used through AASB. And there are some really cool features in here that I'm excited to show you. I won't go into too much detail, but if you do take some time to review and go to the link and look through and you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at a later date to do so. Panorama is also going through and updating a few items. So if you look at it today and then you look at it a few weeks later, it might look a little bit different. This student little 3 little guys up there, that is something that's new. We don't have access to anything on there. So there might be things that you click on and we don't have access to, but Panorama is going through and correcting those now. So you have the opportunity to click on participating Alaska districts, our district, and then you can also go to the school level. So for example, if we were to hit on, of course it would do this, Chinook. You're able to go in to the platform and you'll see the first thing that pops up is a student survey. What I really appreciate about this dashboard is it also has survey context. And so for those who are wanting to learn a little bit more information about how to read the information, how to understand the information, there are direct links on how to read it. There's a report on that, and then a little bit more about the school climate survey itself. You also can click on the question marks for more information. You can click on the compare to, and for example, this one would be comparing to participating Alaska districts, and we can see the caring for others. We see a +1, school safety. If we were to click on that, it will dive a little bit deeper into the information. So for here, for Chinook, you can see that they have 83% favorable responses, and compared to our district, the average for our district is 78. And so you can go through and click from our district to state, which again, Chinook 83%, and the participating districts are at an average of 76%. If we go back, and if we click on the Fairbanks North Scarborough School District, you can also click on schools at the top and look at our school-wide information. What I also like about this as well is it has some accessibility items. So if you click on colors, you can do colorblind friendly, and you can also do different types of customization to make it fit your needs. All right. So I would recommend going and playing into the dashboard. It is a new dashboard, but it is really user-friendly with a lot of awesome information. All right, so what are our current efforts? We have many different current efforts, and I'm really excited to talk about them because I think it's important when you look at our district-wide and at the school level, we are doing so many different and amazing things. Our team works directly with our administration on a school level goals related to climate and connectedness, and we also provide district-wide professional learning opportunities. Most recently, we held a youth mental health first aid training last week with our wellness and prevention teams. We also had AASB and the Alaska Family Engagement Center come and join our district PD days. So they were able to also talk about our dashboard and talk to our staff about it, but then also talk about family engagement and what we're doing across the state, which was really cool. We also provide supplemental materials and toolkits for staff, including presentation templates and classroom resources. And a good example of this right now, because a lot of our staff are sharing pictures of it as Sources of Strength, which is a strength-based suicide prevention initiative that promotes protective factors like connectedness and coping mechanisms that align with our school climate survey measures, and also our belonging and community and growth pillars. We are also really tied to our community. Students and staff participate in many events, like we heard about going to go to the volleyball at UAF, which is really awesome. Native Youth Olympics, career fairs, and a lot of these shared experiences really do build our community and a sense of school pride. It's always so fun. I was just at the event and I was in the gym with all of the students, and it's amazing what you hear when you're just playing with your students and hearing about all the cool things that they're thinking about and learning about. And some students were actually talking about some of the pillars, which was really cool. We also had some JROTC students there helping us. So it was cool just to hear when we're not surveying and just hearing what students have to say about this as well. Also through our communications, through Parent Square and Family Engagement Nights, schools are really building stronger lines of communication and deeper connections with families. I feel very grateful because at Student Support Services, we also get to go to many different schools and do meeting activities, or we're helping with family engagement nights. And there's so many cool things that are happening in our community, and seeing our students with their families at our schools just having so much fun. We were recently at Hunter's Family Engagement, and they had their costumes, and they also celebrated Native Heritage Month, but everybody was super excited. And so those are always fun things to see. Climate survey resources. There are many different resources out there if anyone's wanting to learn a little bit more about that. Schoolsafety.gov has a wide variety of information on school climate, mental health, bullying and cyberbullying. And then we also have many district resources available in programming like Bright Futures, where we provide supplies and materials to families who are in need. The data dashboard has a lot of good information for families. If you're looking at our family engagement, Title I schools have family engagement plans that you can review. And then we also have our student support services webpage where you can learn more about programs that help support our students and families as well. And then also talks a little bit about our community partnerships, because our community partnerships have really helped with many of the needs that our students and families have, and we wouldn't be able to do that without them. All right, thank you.
Board members, any questions for Ms. Gray? Colonel Foster.
I think this is the first question I've asked in my tenure. So I do find these surveys very, very informative. I saw some of the numbers and metrics on the backside. We use them inside the military, so we're mandated by Congress to apply these in certain echelons inside our organization. So we find them very effective, so we can see where there's problem areas. Just a question on two-part question. So the first one is, does this data drive down to a specific school that you're able to see? Because the numbers or the metrics in the back look very broad. I think like it's cross-cutting across the entire district.
Yes, you have the opportunity to either look at it from a district-wide perspective or at the school level as well. And you can go into each individual school, or you can pull up and it shows all of the schools so you can kind of compare and look at each one.
Okay. And then my follow-up question, if I'm allowed, is each school able to input a specific question on something that they're able to target inside that school that may not be in the library? So that if that school is experiencing something that is specific to that school, is the administrator able to custom build something for either the parents and or the student?
Not through this particular survey, but there are schools who do needs assessments. So for example, our Title I schools, they do needs assessments and they get input from families and students. And then they also have the opportunity to do their own surveys if they choose to.
Okay.
Dr. Miner?
I'll build on that a little bit. If you think a district-wide question that focused on military-connected students, we could build it at the district-wide level. AASB allows us to add a certain amount of those questions, but not school by school. So if there's something that would be helpful there, let's collaborate on that, and we'll try to get added into next year's survey.
Yeah, the reason I ask is some of our organizations have specific issues they're trying to target. So they'll ask a very custom-made question so they can get a general consensus of what the unit is currently experiencing, so they can put resources against it if it is a problem. So I didn't know if that was something that translated over. So just a general question I was interested in.
Mr. Dorton.
Thank you for the presentation and the attached information also that's here. I will apologize ahead of time. I got to my questions a little bit later. I think they're okay, but if you say, "Oh, give me time," that's all right. I usually, First, with an observation, and I love the fact that you added in the sample form for grades 3 to 5, and seeing the section that says about me. It's also in the family survey form, and I thought that was a very important and significant thing to that we're not just looking at how do you see the school, but what's going on for you yourself, and if there are ways that we can help. But it did come as I looked at the sample forms. If you could just summarize a little bit, what's the difference between the form and the types of questions for grades 3 to 5 and what it would be for grades 6 to 12? That sample wasn't there, but it's referenced in the material.
We do have those samples, so what I can do is I can gather any information that is missing and have it sent to all of you.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yep, that's good. Okay. Also, when parents are going to, when this is out and we're asking parents to do it, will they access it through Parent Square, Power School? I mean, will they get access to complete the survey?
So there is a dedicated link that we send out for students, staff, and families, and we do send it out directly through Parent Square. We work with the schools to make sure we're sending communication home so they're aware that it is happening. And so communication is sent through that way, but the link is a dedicated link that we require them to use.
Okay. You want me to keep going? I just have a couple.
Continue, Mr. Glenn.
Okay. Thought that as a principal I ran into sometimes in terms of but particularly this says a family survey, but the question that would come up is, can couples fill it out and put both their names, or I just wanted to get a sense of, couples could do it, because I've had that asked, well, do we have to do our separate ones? How do we get both our opinions in? Because, well, we differ a little bit on certain perspectives, but how does that work?
So there is a process that they go through to analyze and make sure that the survey is accurate. So if it's filled out quicker than 4 seconds, if a question is, then they'll kind of cancel those out. But they have allowed different parents or guardians in each household to fill out one if they would like to.
Okay, if they want to do a joint one, is that so they can?
Well, they
do
are
separate?
anonymous. They are anonymous, so no names would be attached to any of them. But they can sit down and look at it together.
Do their own, or in parents who may not be living together that want to make sure they get their joint custody or some types of things. They want to get their individual. They can.
That is correct. Everyone will have access to that.
Okay. Related to that, as I read it, they only need to do one as a family for their school. Am I right? Students they have. But do we get a sense how many families are represented out of these? So, in a sense, if we have a couple filling it out, that's might be considered one family, two families. How do we judge that number to get a percentage?
I will follow up on that one with you later.
Okay. That's great. And my last one is basically, I loved looking at the results from 2025, and I want to give kudos to the district and AASB. There was an AASB presenter at the September Professional Development doing a session on this. I got to be part of a little bit of it, but with staff members there. But what have we been able to do for this year? Some of the steps, some of the things we learned from our input last spring to start acting on this year. And I don't know whether that would be to you or Dr. Minot.
Yeah. So I think some of the things that I kind of talked about in the presentation is that we built out templates. So a lot of staff reached out asking about how can we help support with different templates, different materials, different resources. I think that our strategic plan is something that has been really helpful. Those resources have been helpful. We've been really targeting our professional learning for staff. And so we've been really working on that already. We're not waiting for this year's survey to go out and get those results as well. And so we've been working really hard in how can we make sure that we're aligning all of our efforts between our students, families, community members, and Another thing that we didn't really mention too is we also have a different curriculum called Wayfinder that has ready-made activities and lessons for staff and students district-wide, which has been awesome. We've been getting a lot of feedback, unsolicited feedback on how amazing it has been to have resources at their fingertips to really touch on anything, whether it's an opener for a class, whether it's digital citizenship, whether it's belonging or connectedness. There's resources that have zero prep that staff can use district-wide. And so we've been taking a lot of necessary steps, including them in our action plans, professional learning, and then materials for our students and staff.
Thank you.
Ms. Hewitt.
You mentioned the mental aid, first aid. How many have you done, and how many do you plan on doing this school year?
So we try to do it twice a year, and I have been here for 5 years, and in those 5 years, we've done it every year, twice a year. And it's not mandatory, but we do provide the option, and we do see that a lot of individuals do take that training every year, even though they've taken it in the previous year.
Any additional questions, Dr. Minert?
Thank you. Just a final comment. I just really wanted to thank Bree and her team for the heavy lift they did in getting this new survey tool off of the ground. Anytime you implement something new, and especially something to this magnitude across our district, it takes a lot of work. And thank you to the Alaska Association of School Boards who helped support us through that process as well. I think this is an important step forward in terms of setting a new baseline of data for us to compare not only within our school district of things that we can look to improve upon, but also statewide. It's nice to have that comparison now where we can compare across like districts or districts across the state. And then building on your question a little bit, Mr. Dorn, in terms of how schools are utilizing this. So in our schools action plans for this school year, each individual school has identified a specific goal related to their specific survey data. So they've looked at areas that they would like to grow in, and the goal there is 2% growth. You've heard me talk about 2% growth a lot. And so if we continue to make 2% growth year after year, that compounds really quickly and will show great success for our students and schools. And so that's how schools are using it at a local level.
I really appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Gray.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is an enrollment review. The enrollment report will be presented by Dr. Ellis Ott, analyzes student enrollment trends in the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District between the 2024 and 25 and 2025-26 school years. It explains how the 20-day count determines state funding and reports a decline in enrollment largely due to population shifts and out-of-state migration. The report highlights reduced kindergarten enrollment linked to lower birth rates and notes that these demographic changes will influence future enrollment projections. Dr. Ott, the floor is yours. I hope I didn't steal your thunder with that.
Thank you, President Burgess. So yes, my name is Ellis Ott. I am the Senior Research Analyst for the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. I appreciate the opportunity to present to the board on enrollment review. And I believe in about 10 to 15 seconds, this will pull up. And yes, and also welcome to our new school board members. It's exciting to have this new analysis, new report to bring to the board.
for the listening public, we're just waiting on technology to catch up to us. While we're waiting on that, well, let's take a brief recess, give board members a break. Board members, please be back in 5 minutes. All right, let's bring it back. We'll call this meeting back to order. And again, the agenda item that we're on is an enrollment review presentation from Dr. Ott. Dr. Ott,
Okay, thank
floor
you.
is yours.
So again, Ellis Ott, Senior Research Analyst for the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District. It's exciting to present this. Closer? Okay. Excited to present this enrollment review to the board and our community. Okay, so before we start talking about that, many of you may have heard of this, and it's talked about in the community, the 20-day count. What are we talking about when we say that? So it's a 20-day consecutive school day, every set of school days every school year. It ends on the fourth Friday in October of every school year. So sometimes that may include September, such as in this school year. September 29th was a Monday, and it went through October 24th, 2025 for this school year's 20-day count. That's for determining enrollment. That determines our state funding, by and large. The formula and the process is more specific than I'll present here, but that is how it's determined. A component that's taken into account is weighting for each student over that time period for something that's called full-time equivalent, and I will talk about what that means. So for elementary students, it's about the number of hours that they're receiving direct instruction every day. Okay. For secondary students, it's the number of courses they're enrolled in each semester. So if you have about 1 to 2 hours or one course for secondary, you're a quarter-time student. If you have 2 hours of instruction in elementary or 2 courses in secondary, you're a half-time student. If you're 4 hours or more for elementary or 4 or more courses, then that's full-time. So if you had a student, for example, over an entire 20-day period taking a single course at a single school, they would be considered a quarter-time student for that time period. Okay. So that's in the part of the Fall Oasis report, which I am responsible for submitting for our school district each year in early November. It's due by the end of this week, so we're literally finishing it right now. It also includes demographic information such as special education services, race and ethnicity, the economic status of each student. We also complete another report very close by, I mean, within a few days of one another, an enrollment projection that is dependent on that enrollment data. So they're very close together, and I essentially have to get the current enrollment to figure out our enrollment projections for FY27 next school year. Okay, there'll be something I'll talk about a little bit is the aggregate daily membership. This is just a metric that takes into account both of what I was talking about, the enrollment during the 20-day count period, as well as the FTE of the student on each of those days throughout that period. Okay. Okay, last year, the Fall Oasis, we had about 11,971 students. And preliminary figures, right? Preliminary figures, currently we have about 11,382. Okay, enrollment loss about 589 students. And again, this current data is preliminary. And for the purposes of this report, I'm going to focus on not the weighting of students because it can get quite confusing, as well as it'll simplify this report. So I'm not going to focus on IDM, and I also want to count each student equally for mobility, for their movement. But I provided the data from last year and the current numbers for this year, which will very likely change. It may not change by much, but it certainly could between preliminary and our final submission, as well as some data cleanup, duplicates. We might have duplicates with other districts, and we have to review that over time in December. Okay, so I'm going to be defining something, and this supports the analysis of our student enrollment loss. So we're going to be looking at something I'll call exits. These are really district exits, where they were in last year's Fall Oasis, and the student was not in the current Oasis. So we'll call those our district exits. Okay, and switch those around and say someone that was not in last year's Fall Oasis but was in this current one as a district entry. Okay, and I'm saying district because I want to distinguish that from schools exit and entry, right? Because certainly if a student exits the district, they exit the school. But a student could exit a school, but not the district because they're moving in between schools. So it'll be a completely separate analysis to try and narrow down to individual school exits and entries. And it would include that mobility in between the district, between schools, like you're a fifth grader going on to the sixth grade, middle school potentially, okay? The net loss and or gain will be the entries minus the exits, okay? And for the purposes of analyzing mobility, I'm going to set aside effectively expected things like students graduating, okay? That'll show up in some of these pie charts. So let's focus on exit for a moment. And between those 2 years, we had about 750 students graduate. So they exit out of the district when they graduate. We had about 100 or so unaccounted for dropouts. Okay, there was 200 or so that I was able to identify based on self-report from families. They'll tell us they're doing something like I'm going to homeschool, I'm going to do something else, or they tell us they're moving to another state, right? So that gets adjusted for and put into these other categories if that's been reported. We had over 1,000 students district-wide move out of the district but move out of the state entirely. A little over 200 move out of Fairbanks but stay within Alaska. Close to 40 transfer to private schools within this borough, and 380 or so transferring to other correspondence programs, but still within the borough. So we had over 2,500 students exit the district between last year and this year. Okay. So this is a little summary of that in graphical form. It's a pie chart. The big thing to take out of this is the 58% there. The vast majority of our exits are students and families moving out of Alaska. That category is so large that it exceeds the sum of all the other categories. Okay, that's our exits. Entries, okay, not here last year, here this year. We had about 100 new preschool students, close to 700 new kindergarten. The reason that's not the whole group is because some of our kindergarten students were prior pre-K students moving up to kindergarten. About 700 students moved into Alaska from another state. Close to 200 moved into Fairbanks from other boroughs and or cities in our state. A little over 40 transferring from private school and over 200 transferring from other correspondence programs. So we had 2,500 or so exit the school district and close to a little over 1,900 transferring in, okay, for entries. So the difference between those two is our 589 student loss. And the same kind of result here for entry. Majority of our entry comes from students moving from another state into our state, okay? Okay, net loss, difference between those two. Okay, so this is where I'm trying to match things up that are as like as I can for them, for matching. So the first one is I call it progression dropout. What that is as students graduate and exit the district and or they drop out and exit the district, I'm looking at the new preschool and new kindergarten students coming in. So if those numbers match, then we'd have a net loss of 0, right? And we had about a 60 student loss between those two figures. The next one's a little more straightforward, moving out versus moving in for the state of Alaska. And we had over 320 students, it's 326 specifically, the net loss from that. 42 in relation to moving out of Fairbanks or into Fairbanks, and actually a small net gain of 4 students transferring to versus from private school, and then a net loss of about 165 of transferring out to other correspondence programs versus coming in from other correspondence programs. So that's kind of getting in the nitty gritties around those 2,500 students exiting and almost a little over 1,900 entering. And again, pie chart to try and summarize all that, we have the same result. The majority of our net loss, again, comes from out-of-state movement. Okay, that category exceeds the sum of all the other categories. So that is our primary driving factor for our changes in enrollment between last year and this year. And this is consistent with some analyses that I've done in other years or over long periods of time. So we have a lot of out-of-state and in-state movement. Okay, redid this kind of analysis cross-sectionally by grade level. I'm saying cross-sectional because it's not the same group of kids. It's just comparing the grade levels in each year. And the thing that, you can read this later, but the thing to summarize this is the kindergarten count. That our kindergarten group in this school year is 128 students smaller than it was last year. So that's an important thing to note, and I will reference again with more data later. Okay, so exits by consolidated schools. So Midnight Sun Elementary, Pearl Creek, and Two Rivers closed schools. And this analysis redoes everything in terms of what happened with those students. And the general thing to come out of this, notice that I have a few things that I'm kind of obscuring the data. That's just to keep students' information private. So it'll say less than 2, there will be a star next to something. And that's me just trying to protect student privacy. But the thing that come out of this is the majority of students from those schools remained in the district between last year and this year. Okay. For example, Midnight Sun Elementary, 25 students moved out of Alaska, but 279 remained. So over 10 times as many remained in the district versus moved. Okay, so that's the important data to get out of that, but I'll summarize that some more and say that about 87% of students in those consolidated schools remain within the district by this year, in this fall. Okay. And amongst the set that exited, 60% of those were moving, physically moving. They're moving to, Anchorage, Matsu, et cetera, and or out of Alaska. And using those figures at a loose estimate of the net loss from those consolidated schools and the movement of those students, about 25 students. And for comparison purposes, I looked at grades K through 8 for the rest of the district and had a similar remained within the district figure of 85%. So those are very close to each other. And similarly, the exits, majority of those exits were students moving amongst K-8 schools, but a net loss of over 500 students in K through 8. So all that is for comparison purposes to review our mobility data for our consolidated school students. And it's just referencing that how I estimated that because I can't look at entries for schools that are now closed. Okay. All right, so what I also looked at is outside sources around borough population data, right? What we were just focusing on is school enrollment data. Now this is looking at borough population data. This is provided by the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation. There's a report recently that came out. There's been a 1% decline over the last 10 years, give or take, in general population. And this next statement is really about the fact that even in the event that population doesn't change, what will matter to us as a school district is the school age population. How has that changed? Because when that changed, it directly impacts us and all other schooling programs, right? And in that period, the school age populace declined by more than the 1% that was referenced before, okay? Similar analysis looking at out-of-state migration now for residents in the borough, 1,500 net migration. adjusting for births and deaths. Also note that our current kindergarten enrollment is reflecting birth rates from approximately 5 years prior. And I'm pointing that out because in that report, they talk about there was a 9% decline in birth rates in 2019. And we're very close to 5 years out from that time period. And also noted that the birth rates have not recovered since then. Okay. So all of this data is just corroborating data on changes in the borough population versus the school district enrollment data I just provided. Okay, so summarizing all of this analysis, and what does this say? Okay, so we had a 5% decline in the last year, 23% over the last 20 years, comparing to 05-06. Okay, majority of our enrollment decline is about population shifts in the borough. Okay, and in particular, when we have out-of-state movement, that out-of-state movement's representing over half of our recent change, exceeding all other mobility types combined. Because I think it's critical when we're talking about where the movements are and what it's coming from, is to be specific about the actual data, the actual numbers. How many is it, right? Okay. And so because of that review around the birth rates and the kindergarten count for enrollment projections in the future, we'll need to carefully consider that. Okay, so questions or comments from the board?
Ms. Maple.
Do you have any data on, out of the 58% of exits that left Alaska, how many were military connected?
Yes. So, so it was somewhere around 700 exits and 400 entries for militaries, about 300 net loss, relative to about 309 relative to military students. So for military students, what I said about generally for the district, where the majority of net changes is due to out-of-state movement, it's even more the case for military students, is what that figure comes out to. It's like 90 to 95% of mobility comes from out-of-state movement. Okay.
Can I ask one more?
Follow up, Ms. Maple. Go ahead.
It's not a follow-up, it's just another question. Is that okay?
We'll put you back in the queue.
Okay.
Ms. Dooley.
All right. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's incredibly helpful to have this data, especially as we are considering how we could make decisions that drive enrollment. I have lots of questions, so I'll just ask one. And I don't know where to start, so I'll just start with this one because it's right in front of me. Do you have data on what the birth rate is doing right now?
That would be interesting to find out. I don't know off the top of my head, but I hope I can find it, because it'd be interesting. Like you're saying, 2025, what was the birth rate count?
Yeah. Or anything that's past, if there's a follow-up, anything that's beyond the data point that you have from 2019.
28, 21, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what.
I know it off the top of my head, but.
Okay. That would be incredibly helpful as we are looking at strategic decisions. Thank you.
Ms. Hewitt.
I just wanted to ask, are any of the transfers could they be pre-K or kindergarten age? I know that you said that you moved those and had those in the progression category for net loss and gain, so progression dropout. Could potentially a kindergartner move into state?
Right.
Fall in
Yes.
that category.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
that's the challenge of trying to review that data of, if you have a kindergartner, they may have come from another state before they started kindergarten.
Mhm.
And right now that's not reviewed that way.
Do they get duplicated in that progression? Okay.
No. Each student only gets one category identified for exit or entry.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay, I have Miss Charlie and then Miss Carol Hubbard, followed by Mr. Doran, and then we're just going to start it back over.
So first I have a comment and then I have a question. Looking at the enrollment numbers, the only other time it was lower in the 11,000s was 2020 to 2021, where it was 11,272. And there was a big drop from the year prior also. So it's kind of concerning on the trend, like moving forward after this year and what to expect. But also, my question is, how, how do you come up with the transfer to and from correspondence from the exit and entry? If they're Are they like equally coming in from a correspondence school to one in the district, or
So I
why is
appreciate.
that like separated?
Right. So I appreciate that question because it's challenging to do. Ultimately, right now, as it stands, it's ultimately self-reported. So if a family exits, and there's in our data system, when people are putting down exits, they'll write down a comment. It's just text, right? And I look through that data to look for Raven, Idea, Focus, Cyber School, where the family states for K through 8 predominantly states going to Raven, right? And so then I'll code that as transferring to Raven, for example, if the family has self-reported that. It's a little bit easier for 9 through 12 because there will be an official records request for courses, and that records request will come from Raven or Idea or Focus, so it's more clear where that came from. And it'd be similarly for entry. Is a report of a comment saying came from Idea or Raven, etc. So the challenge with that is the self-reporting, right? And I don't have a definitive answer of this question of will families report and or schools be able to know from the self-reporting as equally exits versus entries, meaning are families more likely to tell us that they're coming from those programs versus when they're leaving the district to go to those programs? If that makes sense, that needs to be balanced in order for this data quality to be stellar and the data is exactly what's happening. So I appreciate that question. It's certainly a challenge in doing that.
Ms. Carol Hubbard?
Thank you. Going to try to make this. I know what I want to ask, but I don't know how to ask it, I guess. Do we know, or can we know if the kindergarten enrollment at the private schools is up, or could we look at, is it possible to look at the homeschools that are around that are not our homeschool programs and see if what their numbers are doing? I guess that's where I'm at with that.
So for the detail of this, when I do a Fall Oasis report, every district does a Fall Oasis report. And there's sort of, I don't know the exact details of how they're doing it, but there's sort of like a statewide Fall Oasis, right? And when the board was discussing this and just kind of having inquiring questions around this kind of thing, I realized in the back of my mind, in the Fall Oasis, we put down city and zip code, right? And so I said to the state, you know this. I don't. I'd like to know this. That you will be able to tell me for which school and district that has 99709, 99708, et cetera, right? All our Fairbanks North Star Borough zip codes for the students, and requested that data. And I think we got that data for last year, but I asked for 10 years worth. So I don't know if I'll be able to get at that data, but it is certainly of interest because then we could review it like over time. What's the trend like, right? And I'm just as interested as you are expressing in that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Doran?
Thank you. On slide 7, when you start talking about dropouts or unaccounted for students. You mentioned that some of the information you use is parent self-reporting. Some of it is when we get records requests and stuff. But what has happened sometimes, people will say, well, how don't you know, why don't you know this? How is it unaccounted? Or how do you know they dropped out? Could you just explain a little bit how you get to that figures?
Yeah, so ultimately, dropout in general is we don't know what's happened, right? Like if we figured it out, then they're not a dropout anymore, right? Because they've transferred to another district. We have a records request to prove that. And the process of record keeping for that is extensive. And effectively, if we want to not count a student down as a dropout in our official reporting, like we have this other report called the Summer Oasis, we have these exit codes, and one of those exit codes references a dropout. We have to count them a dropout if we can't prove otherwise. And we have to prove it through a records request, which is more consistent, in my opinion, in high school because it's kind of a part of the process. But that's not a 100% perfect process, especially when they're moving to other states or maybe they already have their records. And so we have staff in schools trying to review that information daily, right? Or at least extensively. And so it's not an easy process, even for me to look through it and try to review. I'm looking at entry comments and exit comments. Do I get a sense of, has it been at least reported to us? Because sometimes what will happen is they'll say, I'm moving to Texas. And that's literally the text that it says in the exit comment. But then there was no record request that followed up with that. So when we do our official reporting, we have to count that student as a dropout. And they will count against the graduation rate for high school if that happens. For the purposes of this report, I decided a self-report from the parent I'll count as that, of what they've told us.
Thank you. Put me back on the queue.
Ms. Maple.
I know that it's ultimately a net loss for the transferring in and out from other correspondence programs, but we have had it hammered in that we need to be attracting folks back from other correspondence programs. And while we lost 382, we did get 217 back. And I'm curious, and I don't necessarily need the information now, but I'm wonder if you have access to or could have access to which programs if there was a trend in the programs we got students back from, so that we could perhaps use that information moving forward and trying to attract more of those students back.
It definitely can be broken down by, if what you're asking is IDEA, Raven, Focus, Cyberlinks, what's the other one? PACE. I do have that. Or at least it wouldn't take me that long to do it because I'm using that. I'm running stuff like look for this word in this text, look for Raven, and spell it different ways and things like that to find the data. Yes, it can be done. Yeah.
Ms. Julian.
Thank you. I know that we have that 1 year kind of data dump last year, and that was super helpful to see which zip codes
right
students live in, students that attend out of district homeschools live in that are within our borough. Thank you also for asking for the 10-year data on that so that we can see the trends. That's very important. My question specifically is, even though we only have 1 year data on that, is there a way that we can look at the summary from a borough-wide perspective of where the majority of those out-of-district homeschool students live by zip code in our borough? Because then we know specifically within a borough the size of New Jersey where these pockets of opportunities are for us to attract out-of-district homeschool families back to our district, whether that is within our best homeschool or within a neighborhood school or within a program or a school of choice. And I'm wondering if you kind of know that data off the top of your head, or if that's a follow-up.
I think I might have it, and I think it's summarized by school. There's counts, so it'll say Fairbanks Borough, and it'll have counts for each school for that. I don't know if it narrows it down to by zip code, meaning separating 99709 from 99701, but I will know each school.
Dr. Minor?
Yeah, the Miss Julian's question, it does not break it down per zip code. I feel fortunate that we got the data we did last year because it's the first time in my 20 years in education. We've been asking for this every year and have never gotten it broken down by actual district and location, but not granular to zip code at this point in time. And also not sure if we're going to get that data again. I think Senator Tobin was instrumental in getting that data and then making sure that Deed sent that out to districts. And I know it was well received because it's helpful to make some decisions around that, but we don't have it isolated per zip code for other programs within the interior.
Follow up, Ms. Julian?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up that I want to, that this is an important comment. We are the fiduciary for this district, and we have very little dollars to spend and need to spend those dollars, those tax dollars, those public dollars in a very strategic way. We are have a blindfold on us right now. We are trying to figure out how to attract out of district homeschool students, which in the Fairbanks North Star Borough represents 20% of students within our borough. Attend a public school, attend an out of district homeschool. We are flying blind. So to the state, if you're listening, we need that data so that we can strategically use those dollars in a way that does not waste public money and helps serve students where they are. That's my follow-up comment.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. Because he hasn't spoken yet, I'm going to go to Colonel Campbell.
Thank you. And I know Colonel Foster used his one comment today, so I felt inclined to follow up. But Mr. Ott, thank you for the analytics on this, and deeply interested in analytics as it helps us to provide predictive analysis. And to kind of what Ms. Julian said, as we look at out of state, that's something that Tim and I have been talking about. Recognizing that 31% of the school district is military connected based upon your analytics that you've shown. Historically speaking, the past 5 years, it's moved from 21 to 25%. So with that being said, kind of one of the things that we've looked at in 24-25, military connected students, 3,660. Why do I bring that up? Over the last decade, that's probably the highest it's been, pretty significant compared to the remaining, the previous years. 23-24, it was only 2,946, which is a difference of 714. So we spiked pretty significantly in the past year. Why do I give you those two data points of 31% of school district and a change of 714? I think we had to make sure we're connecting with you on what we're seeing from an influx or deflux from the military connected side. It's very hard to predict based upon force flow, operational requirements. We do know we're going to have an increase over the course of the next 3 to 5 years within our formation as well as the Air Force formation. But there's a significant impact to the school district associated with that. So while I know we have a big piece of it, just under a third, it does have an effect of what's moving in and out. And I'd be interested to get offline with you on what's moving in and out of state and the specifics of that. But I appreciate the analytics. And just to kind of drive home to the team is we owe you kind of some little more feedback, best fidelity we can find, which is challenging on what we're seeing coming in and coming out. But I appreciate this and appreciate the opportunity really to make sure our students remain connected to the school district and you trying to provide the best opportunities for our families. So thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Campbell. Next in my queue, I have Ms. Hewitt, followed by Mr. Dorn.
Hi, I had one more on the exit interviews, you said it's just a line of text. Is there a way to ask, particularly families moving to correspondence schools or out of state, the reason why? I know that could be short or could be long, and maybe just like a representative sample, not across the whole board, but like 10 to 12%, and that could give us a better idea of the reasoning behind people.
So this is a really interesting idea, and I certainly, as I was preparing for the presentation, I thought about it as a possible thing. So that would be something like an exit survey, as well as an entry survey for families transferring from correspondence programs to choose either our correspondence programs or our brick and mortar schools, or the other way around when they exit, and is preparing questions around that for families. And my expertise is more in quantitative type data. That would be more qualitative approach, and I think it would be a very interesting project that either the board and or the administration could decide to move forward with. But yes, it would be very interesting, and certainly what typically I'll say with a lot of data is I'll say it tells you what, but not necessarily the why. The why is the hardest thing to get at. And also I would say that, when I read things out in the community and whatnot, and people are trying to claim that they know why, we don't. This is mostly about the what, and the exit survey and entry survey could try and get at that a little bit better of the why. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Doran.
Thank you. This two-part question, but also related to the correspondence movement of students. I know last year we were able to. So my first part is if we know how many students were transferred into BEST. I know last year was pretty close to a wash, so that's my first part. I don't know if you want to answer that or the second part. Wait here for the second part.
I know I did one of them. I don't know if I did the from other correspondence programs to BEST, but I definitely did exits. And I think it was only 20 to 30 kids. And so 95% of the exits to other correspondence programs were not from Fairbanks BEST. But the other way around of entry from other correspondent programs into BEST. I don't think I have that right now, but I could figure that out.
Okay. And the second part related to that is in terms of students who transferred in, but you may have answered part of this. My question is those who transferred into the district from correspondence, did they transfer into BEST or into our neighborhood schools? If we have that breakdown again.
Yep. Not ready for that, but I can prepare that for sure.
Yep. And if I could just follow up, connected, I don't want to get into it tonight because it would distract us too far. But question with that, and especially those students from correspondence transferring into our neighborhood schools, since we don't have any data or extremely minimal data on student achievement from BEST schools, less than 15% test. Okay. But when they come in, we do get the MAP and M-class entries, and just put in the hopper that at some point we look at how they are scoring when they come in, so we have some sense of how correspondence students are doing when they go to the neighborhood schools and they get tested on those measures.
Okay, so I'm just writing notes.
Just to comment on that analysis, I do think that would be extremely challenging to do because there's a number of correspondence students or students that we're seeing bouncing back and forth, sometimes several times throughout the year. And so it's not typical where a student just moves in and then we can track that student and they stay. There's a lot of movement in and out. And so Ellis is an incredibly bright individual, but I do think that would take a fair amount of analysis to track that throughout the district. And so we'll consider how we might do that, but that won't be something that'll come quickly back to the board.
Thank you. And that might be at least for the beginning of the year or the first test, not necessarily tracking all through the year, but how they come in.
Ms. Maple, and then I'll have Ms. Julian.
Just a question about your. Oh no, which slide was it? Just when you're going over some definitions at the beginning on the third slide, I know you're not going to get into ADM and all of the details of that. But when we are looking at these FTE numbers, you talked about how, that's how we figure out our funding. If a student is split across schools, is there the funding associated with them split across schools as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So what's being referenced is a student could be dually enrolled with one of our schools and another correspondence program that's not within our district.
Ms. Julian.
Well, this is a really good pitch to me because my question is if somebody, so I know that, like, for example, at one of our elementary schools, Hunter Elementary, we see a pretty large increase of students enrolled in that school. And please correct me if I'm wrong, from a trend level. I just know that last year we received quite a few students, upwards of 70 students that enrolled after the 20-day count that were coming new to our district, new to that school. Now, now this might be a funding question.
Are you
but
talking 25, 26, like currently?
No, maybe 24, the previous year.
Last year, okay.
Yes. Yes. So can we talk a little bit? I think that it's important to understand, where does that funding for that student then sit? Does it sit in the home district that they were in during the 20-day count and stay there? Or if they come to Fairbanks, North Pole, anywhere in between, in our borough, in our school district, after the 20-day count, does their state funding follow them?
So our funding for the school district is based on the 20-day count.
Okay.
So if a student, if we lose students after that, or regain students after that, between, October 24th of right now, October 24th, all the way to next school year, it makes no difference to our funding, whether it goes up or down, until we do the 20-day count for next year. The exception to that is we've gotten some information about students that may have been displaced from Typhoon Halong, and there might be some. We want to try and be able to track those students when they come. There may be an exception to that.
I do have one follow-up.
Go ahead, Ms. Julian.
Can you clarify a little bit on the funding? So the 20-day count that we just had, and then you'll submit the report. that funding that we will receive then is for this school year. Is that correct? Or are we looking for next school year?
Andy will be better at talking
Okay.
about like the timing of the stuff and how they will be funded a certain amount based on old data, and then they'll do catch up kind of stuff. He'll probably be able to speak to that better than I would.
Yeah, so Ms. Julian, so the results of the 20-day count that just finalized will solidify our current year revenue. So if you recall, last budget cycle, last year in the spring, all of our enrollment numbers were projections. So it's all kind of an educated guess on our state revenue up to the point of the 20-day count. And then the 20-day count solidifies that enrollment for the current year and solidifies the revenue for the entire year. We receive the first half of our fiscal year, we receive based on our enrollment projections that we had during the budget process last year. And then the last half is reconciled and evens out based on the final 20-day count numbers.
Mr. Dorn.
Thank you.
Quick procedural note. Since everyone's spoken a couple times, I'm just going to go ahead and let members ask 2 questions if you have them.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
That'll take me to the end. um, I think this was already asked, but I'll just add then to make sure that it was and add my support for it. But looking in terms of from the consolidated schools, the number of students who remained but still transferred into Best for homeschool instead of going to a neighborhood school. I think that would be helpful for our planning purposes. And then my last thing is perhaps more observational, unless you want to comment it otherwise. I really appreciated your adding the borough information in here, and you prompted me to go look a little broadly 2010 forward. And very interestingly, in 2013, I believe was the high point in our borough of 101,000 population. In 2016, it was 100,000, just under 101, and then a steep drop to 2020 to 95,000. So, and then you mentioned age groups, and in the data, every age group is on a decline, except for the seniors over 65s. And, it's just further information support that you've included and alluded to that we're losing population as a borough and as a state, as well as the age group demographics that make a real difference as we plan forward. So, and I really wanted to say I appreciate the continuing updates as you have them and from the military, because that's a very significant piece for us as planning. So, but thank you for including that in this data.
So I will thank Dr. Minert for forwarding me that report, because I looked at that one. This is great for this kind of review. Yeah.
I have no one else in my queue. Is anyone else itching to ask a question or make a comment? Ms. Julian.
Yeah, I just want to thank the administration again for investing in Dr. Ott and the program and your department. And this is very helpful. I feel very fortunate that our school district has this type of data available to us that's been summarized, and we really are able to lean on data in making decision making at this dais. So thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Ott. Really appreciate it. And I'll just make a comment unrelated that as board president, it's nice to be able to allow everyone else to ask all the questions that I've had. So well done, board. And that brings us now to our last agenda item for the evening, board and superintendent comments. So I'll go ahead and start with our advisory members. Colonel Campbell, any final comments tonight?
No, appreciate the opportunity today, and thanks for hearing out my comment.
Colonel Foster? Okay, thank you. Ms. Charlie? Okay, for the record, Mr. Wade has left for the evening. We'll go to Ms. Julian.
Ooh, okay. I have 3 things that I'd like to share, maybe more. But okay, first I want to just say thank you for encouraging us, President Burgess, to visit schools. I am looking forward to tomorrow with Ms. Carol Hubbard visiting, and that's just, we just do that together because we started at on this board at the same time, so we kind of synced up that way. But we will be visiting North Pole Elementary and North Pole Middle School, so looking forward to those visits. It's important to talk about this right now because it is never easy to ask anyone for help. Pride oftentimes gets in the way of that, and that's okay. But if you are experiencing a loss of income, feeling a financial pinch in any way in your family, and if your family subsistence hunts, fishes, berry picks, has seasonal work as in logging, and you do that outside of our borough for at least 1 week every single year, you might qualify for our migrant education program. And this is important to clarify that you do not need to be a member of a federally recognized tribe to participate in the migrant education program. The migrant education program provides free breakfast and lunch for enrolled students, tutoring, and other programs that can help offset financial pressures to your family. The application process includes an online Google document questionnaire that takes a couple minutes, and then you will be contacted by somebody at the district office to schedule a phone interview that takes about 10 minutes. Applications are then sent to the state for approval, and if you're approved, that can happen pretty quickly. I really want to encourage everybody that if you are feeling those pinches right now financially, please look into this because it can help relieve some of those pressures that you might be feeling. Again, that's the Migrant Education Program, and that is through our school district, and you can find that on our website. I want to thank the Two Rivers Homestead Charter, APC members, the supporters, and also the students who brought forward an application for our review, which started yesterday. The former Two Rivers School was a Title I school, and that means that there were a high percentage of students who qualified for free or reduced lunch cost based on financial need that attended that neighborhood school. And it was really interesting last night, and I'm curious about this. This is very curious to me about if a charter school, and historically, charter schools really don't have services that meet the needs of low-income students because of cost barriers, but could that potentially qualify as a title school? So our application review process continues next week, and I'm looking forward to hearing from administration based on the questions that and I also want to thank the application for looking at a year-round calendar. And I know that there'd be several waivers required from FEA and ESSA, our unions, that are needed to explore that. So I just hope to see those conversations unfold as we continue to work through that. And then school start times and enrollment, and I've made it pretty clear tonight. I think that my North Star here on this board is to try to make some strategic decisions that drive enrollment to our district. And we need to pull levers that drive the biggest return on investment. That's my personal opinion. Last year, the Anchorage School District adjusted their start times, starting secondary schools later, so that's middle and high school, and elementary schools a little bit earlier. And in our district, some of our high schools start as early as around 7:30 a.m. Scientific data supports the claim that later start times for middle and high school students lead to better student success and outcomes. And in 2019, right before the pandemic, this district had a really robust conversation around that. I think that that's potentially a lever that we could pull as a school district that might drive enrollment, adjusting start times. We've heard a lot of feedback. I've heard a lot of feedback over the last year from parents and educators and students, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having that conversation this year. So with that, I will conclude my remarks for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Julian. We'll go to Mr. Dorn.
Thank you. I wanted to talk about an experience I had today. Had the opportunity to go on a tour of the Pipeline Training Center. Um, it was with the tour itself was geared towards a group of North Pole High School students who were there for it. And as I joined them, and I had been to the, I thought I had been to the training center. I found out I had not seen but a small part of it. I called it the opportunity to go into the Outback. I'd been in the main building and around some of the other, immediate campus, but we got to ride a bus and head way back in the woods and actually see them loading pipe onto the trucks, taking it off the trucks, laying it down, getting it ready, doing welds, joining two pipes together, and then some of the support work that's there. It was a phenomenal opportunity, and I really, if you have a chance to do that, I highly recommend it. They promoted the various unions, the variety there. That was just really good. I had thought this is pipeline training. I mainly focused on the welding and putting pipe together, but all the other pieces, machinists, oilers, etc. But there were a couple of really big things that stood out to me. They talked about safety. And I've been around school construction projects and was always impressed. My visual is watching carpenters up on the roof, and they never threw a piece of wood off the roof. They would walk it to the edge, look, and drop. And from the moment we stepped on actually before we stepped on the bus, we had to put hard hat on, make sure we had eye protection, safety vest. They took time as the bus driver was going along to explain her safety procedures in navigating turns, in stopping at the railroad crossing. They reminded people, and in the presentations by each of the forum at the different stations, they did talk about the safety things, whether it was there in that pipeline, whether it was in that training areas, whether they were talking about when you're on the slope, these are the things you have to keep in mind. Those reminders, the rules, the procedures that are all part of doing a good job and being a professional. It was really interesting. There was somebody who we passed who did not have safety vest, hard hat on, and they stopped the bus. One of the guys got off and said, "I'll check out and see where this is," and because they were not in their safety gear. And I don't know what the circumstances was, whether it was another visitor or whatever, but their awareness of watching all along. And actually, we were standing next to a crane where they were doing a welding, and one of the leaders of the tour was standing right next to the crane with his arm just barely touching the crane, because they were going to move the crane to show us how they brought another section of pipe in. And he was there so that the backup beeper would go on if that was going to happen. He was not supposed to back up, supposed to go forward, but which the crane driver did well, just move forward. But just that safety awareness that they were demonstrating for students, I thought was great. They talked about the hand signals, sign language, in effect, because a lot of those jobs you can't hear even if you shout over the equipment. But the importance, they drew the students' attentions to the importance of the signals in the various areas. the professional terminology. And this was one of the things I asked, had a chance to ask several of the foremen. I said, okay, so our students graduate. A lot of them have had some CTE classes. How does that help them? What do you find in their coming in? And they said, well, there's nothing that replaces hands-on application and implementation. And he said, no matter who it is, you're going to have a learning curve. But our students, their experience is learning. They have some familiarity with the basics and the terminology, and then they can build on that. One of the gentlemen really highlighted when you go into this, you're entering a career, and that as students, they should, as they look at it, consider it is that it's not just a drive-by, but it really looking at the opportunity for building a career down the line. But he also gave excellent advice on saying, if you start an internship or apprenticeship, finish it. Even if you find out that, or you think, well, this is not something that I want to really do for a career, it's not my niche, but finish it because it gives you something that later you can build on. If you do go on and go off to look, go to college or go look to different things, you may say, oh, I could do this. I want to, I do want to go back and do it. Or you just need a job. And they talked about international opportunities and calls for that. The other piece of it, which I had not realized until today, is when they go through that, they actually can earn college credits. And they were varied by what you were in and length of the training, but I think it was 38. And Ms. Hewitt probably knows this much better than I do, but up to 70 credits were mentioned towards a college degree. So it really provided some things I hadn't realized. And so I just really want to thank the folks at the Pipeline Training Center for the time they took with our students, the teachers who accompanied the students and brought them on that field trip, and the students themselves in their attention to what was going on and such. But it was a great experience. And yes, I do encourage, if you have a chance to do it. I learned a lot myself.
Thank you, Mr. Doran. Ms. Maple.
Thank you. I have been reflecting on the Two Rivers Stead charter application before us and the continued school funding, education funding crisis, and the APC's thoughtful responses to some of my questions and comments from our work session. And I would be very interested in hearing about some non-charter iterations of this very unique STED concept that they've presented and the associated costs of those iterations that the administration could potentially explore and share with the board to consider. I thought of a program housed at another school, a focus school out at the Two Rivers building that's reflective of our current SALCHA model, implementing a STED focus at another neighborhood school. I don't have enough information to feel like I have a full understanding of what could be. But if anybody else on the board is interested in hearing about more options for investment at next week's work session rather than just a review of the charter, I hope you will share that interest with Dr. Meinert, and sooner rather than later, because I certainly know he would need direction from more than just me, and also time for the administration to compile information if there's additional things we'd like to review. And I'm appreciative of last night's meeting. I don't quite have the words for it. It was really, I don't know, I learned a ton, and I want to learn more. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Maple. Ms. Hewitt.
I'll keep it brief. I just want to express my appreciation for getting into this role and the support that I felt from the district, other board members reaching out, and the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hewitt. Ms. Carol Hubbard.
Thank you. I too, Ms. Maple, would like to hear any kind of mixed models or other ideas that we have for that STED charter. I think it's a great idea, so I'll chime in there. And I also am very interested in seeing if we can find the zip codes that Ms. Julian was asking about, to see if we can see which students are attending out of district schools and see if there are pockets that we can then focus on. The demographics, the data is important so that we don't waste our time and waste our money and our efforts. I think it would be really important, and I look forward to seeing that at some point. I want to restate how proud I am of the school district accomplishments of academic growth of the students. We have a 2% goal for growth, as Dr. Minor was stating, and it's a remarkable goal. And it's also, we accomplished it and even exceeded that district-wide. So I think that's really important. There's a narrative that kind of goes around about failing schools, and we're not failing. And so I want to keep restating it and restating it because I think it's the drum that we need to keep beating, that we're doing well, our students are doing well. It's a reflection of student commitment. It's a reflection of parental involvement and teacher dedication. And as Ms. Gray's report pointed out, 92% of families and 88% of students agree that their school is a welcoming place. I think that's a change, and I think that's a positive change. Thank you for that report, Ms. Gray. And I'm excited about that. On that note, as a reflection, we've had over 60, which is 3%, Gold Star recognitions for staff from staff. And I don't know if the district or if the community is aware of that, but we see the staff giving kudos to other staff members, and I think that's phenomenal. And it's evidence of teamwork and sincere appreciation for the hard work that is being noticed by those in the trenches together, they're together every day. And so this week we had 51, which is 3% of all staff recognized as outstanding team members. So congratulations and thank you to the staff for recognizing your peers. It's really a beautiful thing. And as we affirmed our board norms tonight, I felt like this was sort of a great opportunity for me to kind of share a personal note. Recently, I've been asked a few times how my faith helps me in my role as a school board member. And I've never talked about my faith before. But I wanted to just make a comment about that because, like, in my generation, people really never talked about their faith. And when I was younger, you never heard anything about that. And we certainly never heard political leaders talk about their faith ever. And so I believe that I have been placed in this position for a brief period of time to do the most amount of good, and I would say good for God, for our school district and for our students and our families and our community. And I believe now more than ever that honoring God, for me, is the most important way that I can make a difference. We all on this board get a limited opportunity to make a difference. And if you are one who believes in God, then you most likely believe that God has a plan for each and every life on this planet, and I certainly do. What I do with my opportunity in my part is in part, is up to me, and then in part is also up to God. And I will end on the quote from John Quincy Adams, who said, "Duty is ours, but results are God's." So I'm going to show up every time as prepared as I can be, and I'm going to do my best, and I'll leave the results to God. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carol Hubbard. That brings it to me. Ms. Hull has for the record, has had to leave early she is on vacation in a different time zone. But I just wanted to say, earlier I touched in my president's report on visiting schools, and I forgot to say at the time, when you're thinking about those school visits, don't forget about our alternative programs. We have a lot of great alternative programs that are worth getting out to. I have yet to make it to one, but I intend to do so, and I'm sure Ms. Beam would be happy to facilitate any of those visits. I'm going to be continuing with school visits through the Guys Read program. I did U Park yesterday. Met with the principal there. She had great things to say about the district, by the way, and plan to go out to Salcha on Thursday. Hopefully, I'll get my winter tires on before then. But I really wanted to close tonight by just saying thank you to this board and the community for the confidence you've expressed in me. It has been great and humbling to hear the congratulations and compliments from community members, from board members. And I intend to lead this team with humility and thoughtfulness. And I ask for the help from the board members in both holding me and the rest of the board accountable, and to help by bringing forward your ideas and helping with the goals that I expressed earlier in my president's report. We have a really great team here, members with diverse backgrounds and perspectives, each member bringing their own value to the board. And I just want to express how much I'm looking forward to working with this team to continue the work of the district and amplify its successes. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Without objection, we are adjourned.